And we are live. I haven't done one of these for quite a while, but this is Katie Hunter for MMA UK, and I'm here with Paul Reed. Paul, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure, Katie. Always good to talk to you.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I'm so excited about all the stuff that you're doing, but today we're talking about the four nations that are coming up, and I wanted you to tell everyone what's going on, where it's going to be, who's involved,
Yeah,
everything
sure.
really.
Well, look, I think after last year, it was our first one, so we kind of find our feet a little bit, and then we always wanted to do another one because it was really successful.
Yeah,
Um, the things we wanted to improve was we were in somebody else's exhibition, so like we weren't in control of a lot of things within that area. So perhaps the area was smaller than we wanted, and then trying to manage yourself around a big exhibition with a lot of people. And but in many ways, I think it was better than we thought because the competitors' feedback was incredible. I
yeah,
think everybody kind of enjoyed it, and we got through it okay. And I would say it was a success. The downside was it's not a downside. It's a slightly different feeling that we had to find so much support and sponsorship and financials because we couldn't sell a ticket. It probably it probably come at a cost to English MMA, and then trying to find the sponsors of around 12,000 plus.
yeah.
So as a not-for-profit, we're all volunteers. We rely on good sponsors, UFC and PFL supporting us with when we shadow sanction with some funds and stuff. That's difficult because we always need to maintain some money for all the things in the background to support what we do ultimately. So, but this time we go to Ebervale, right? So we're kind of taking English MMA into Wales, which is great because two things. One, we know the venue.
Yep.
It's a good venue, of course, with Shaky and Cage Warriors Academy doing good things there.
Mhm.
Two is we've changed tournament in that we've added the youth to it, so we've got two cages running. So and we've probably got, I think we're close. We've got to update this weekend, but about 200 that have applied for. So
200 athletes.
yeah, between youth, junior, and senior, yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
amazing.
So and I think obviously the key part is that we want to keep this going. And I think ultimately, if you kind of got to the utopia, it would be like have an English tournament, have a Four Nations tournament, and each of the Four Nation countries have their own, and we kind of build it from there.
Yeah.
We we're pulling, so Smooth Comp is ready and everybody's getting registered, and then that'll pull the tournament design, and then we can start doing more with that. It's to start with, it's about getting everybody registered and onto Smooth Comp, and then get the tournament design. The youth design will be slightly different to the junior and senior, obviously.
How old are the
Um,
youths?
from 12, so 12. So if you think of it's like the IMAF way,
Yeah.
yeah. So 17 and onwards, 17 to 20 is junior. It's anything below, it's no headshots.
Mhm.
So for age 12, but there's different categories for that as well, A, B, and C. And it's a great opportunity for them because, of course, we fit more bouts in with youth with them being no headshot.
Yeah.
Um, it's in that tournament design. You can become the Four Nations champion. There's a lot around that, obviously. Um, it's a podium. There's medals. There's all the things that come with it.
Yeah.
Um, the youth response has been phenomenal. But I think, and without going into too much detail, obviously the youth haven't got the IMOF opportunity right now. So of course it creates competition opportunity, tournament opportunity. That's what we wanted to create as well. Why we've added the youth to it. Even though I think we've got to be doing that for the future.
Yeah.
And look, it's like you're running a 3-day tournament with two cages. I mean, we're kind of experienced, but like, we've got to work hard. We're not super experienced in running, multi-fighter 3-day tournaments but like I think we're pretty set up, if I'm honest.
How many volunteers have you got on the day helping you with like running and all the setup and everything?
Well, I mean, the Emma team, believe it or not, is quite small, and we have some incredible people that work so hard in the background, especially Dana that just like does everything for us really from an admin, but Marie Spencer as well, myself, Coach Paul Kelly puts a lot in. But then the great things we have is like Paul Sutherland's on board and his experience from a youth perspective. Mark Goddard and his team, with Dan Motherheady and Sam and their officials, judges, are always great because this is the thing people don't see is that these people volunteer, pay their own way,
Yeah.
pay for their like a lot of people put a lot of time and effort and money in
Yeah.
uh, to attend. All of us really pay for our own hotels, have time off work, whatever it may be. But that's the same for athletes as well, yeah, because they've got to travel and they've still got to book a hotel and all the things that come with it. But what we've done with that, Katie, is that we've kept registration fee really low. So obviously, if you go to IMAF and places like that, registration fee can be expensive. We've
Yeah.
kept £15, which basically
Wow.
covers new comp and a bit of admin. And then we still got to fund things like the medical team, and just to make a point, we do use Chris Lamb and his team, so high level
Yeah.
ambulances, paramedics, and we put extra people on with obviously having two cages. We've got Mark got us in attendance, which is great. So and all this officiating team. So I mean, again, travel the world in some of the best promotions. And then
Absolutely.
cage hire, medicals, kit. So shin guards, gloves, that kind of stuff. So it's an investment, but like we'll sell a few tickets, and in outside the competition, Dan Hardy, Veronica Hardy, Molly McCann, Mark Goddard, Jack Shaw, Richard Shaw, all these people are coming to the event to do Q&As and talks. Trying to think if I've missed anyone there now, and I feel terrible. Um, I think I've kind of, and there's a few I'm just waiting for, but a few extra special guests, So just to give it a bit of an expo feel, um, where people can come and do Q&A and a little bit of meet and greet, and all these people are doing that, for no reward. It's generally to create a bit of a buzz about the place, sell some tickets, and make sure we can cover costs. That's all we ever look to do, cover
Yeah.
costs. Because you've got to hire the venue and you've got to cover all the costs of the ambulances and the medical teams and everything else. So we only look to cover costs, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But these guys are doing that for us to give their time. And I think obviously in Wales, Jack is a huge name in Wales. He'll be great for us. Richard's got a story to tell, which is, I don't know whether he'd want to do that, but obviously at the moment there's a lot of media focus on from the podcast and Jack's speech at the UFC, and
Yeah.
that adds the nice part, softer part to the sport that people want to listen to. So I think generally we just want to create that exhibition tournament, good feeling, get some good sponsors around us, generally put on a good tournament, and with a wing of the prayer, and then we deliver, you know.
It sounds amazing, and I'm just so pleased to hear that those people, I mean, I know them all and I know they're all great people, but like they're giving back into kind of grassroots MMA, and from as a volunteer, and not asking for anything for it. They were once in these guys' shoes. Maybe didn't get the opportunity to train MMA as young as some of these people, but like they were once kind of trying to forge their careers. So it is so lovely to see them giving something back to the sport.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, just talking from a youth perspective, if you see the quality of the youth now, it's incredible. And
Yeah,
then, really excited about the new youth team coaching team, which is, Adam Vensey, Lawrence Fitzpatrick, Sam Spencer, Tom Cutsby, like they're top guys, and the time and effort they've already given to this. And like, I'm excited about the youth team, but you look at the quality of the youth, it's like,
it's
we
scary.
weren't seeing that at that age, were we, before? It didn't happen at that age. And now you look at them. And then, of course, that transitions into our junior team,
Yeah,
which then transitions to our senior team. And then bit by bit, we're getting a bit of momentum. And I think it was always that thing. Was IMAF the right way? Is this the right way? Is the shin guards the right way? Is the rash guard the right way? Is the rules? But I think people can see that, from all the success that people have had competing through the IMAF type tournaments, definitely the right way. And I don't know why people wouldn't get on board, because we put so much time and effort and passion through this, Katie.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
of our
a
own
hundred
time and
percent.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
100%. I think I've seen that for so long. And you spoke about IMAF there. I do want to briefly touch on it because I've loved to see athletes get to fight competition, not knowing who they're going to fight, and fight people from all different nationalities. And there's been parts of the IMAF tournament that have been amazing over the years, but
Yeah,
recently you've parted ways from IMAF, and a lot of other countries have as well. I don't know how much you can say, but can you talk a little bit about that?
I think it's key to clarify a few bits. It's not parted ways, we've suspended activity. So
Okay.
we're not finished. It's like, whatever you want to call or brand this competition, this association that's IMF, like that's the right way for the sport. And I agree with you. It has given some incredible experiences, incredible opportunities, um, and you'd want that to continue for amateur athletes. Like some of it's lifetime memory opportunities because like
Yeah.
I still engage with the Emma team like when they're never off my case really asking me questions I think but generally the athletes I see them and the camaraderie is developed but more than that the experiences that they've had and then knowing a lot of the other coaches from the other countries and athletes it's like that's an incredible opportunity. The unfortunate thing is that over time, there was a few things highlighted. And listen, I mean, Peter put something out on your socials, which kind of like he was ahead of the game than most of us, if I'm honest, with his reporting, Katie.
Yeah.
And I won't get into that too much. The bottom line is that we have a duty of care to our athletes. Some of the things reported, which are well known, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but the safeguarding concerns, and then we feel is perhaps at the top a lack of responsibility and accountability and actually just making sure that change is in place.
Mm.
Um, that disappoints us, but ultimately, and I took some advice from safeguarding legal people. We're not going into this lightly. We're taking some advice from experts, which is you can't really expose yourself to that at the moment. But also, it makes everybody look at things closely. We would never deal with it like it was dealt with, Katie, that's for sure. But, it's putting an extra emphasis on us to check everything as well.
Yeah.
But look, I don't know where it's going to go. I think IMAF's had some, as a brand, it's had, and rightly so, probably a lot of criticism over this and some of the things that have come out. That's financial reports that have come out and safeguarding concerns. And generally, you know, you've got to own up to that. It's not I'm after the brand that's an issue. It's the people at the top that need to show that they acknowledge and change and do things correctly. And some of the things I'm aware about, and I'm going to talk as me, not Emma, and not anybody else I'm affiliated with. I would be very disappointed about from someone who's spent 30 years at the top of some major organisations and businesses. I wouldn't deal with it like that. So I think ultimately, and it was with great sadness, Katie, as well. So it's not like
Yeah.
we're enjoying the bad rep that I'm after getting or some of the bad press. We don't enjoy that, but facts are facts. You've got to deal with it, and you've got to do what you believe is right for your athletes and team, and that's what we're doing with with some sadness involved in it, but it doesn't affect what we do, and we'll move on. The other nations will move on. We'll keep doing the right things by the athletes. We'll create tournament design. I'm sure that will work its way out somewhere.
Yeah.
That something will come back, but until then, we'll just try and build four nations and maybe beyond that. So we were thinking of Six Nations and maybe getting a couple of the other Europeans across in that kind of rugby theme, right? So I think there's things we can do, and hopefully, it resurrects itself and we can get back to doing things correctly. But I'm just going to make a point that duty of care in amateur athletes needs to improve generally in the sport. If your leading association that covers the world can't provide that, then it's probably something to consider because I'm quite outspoken about duty of care and we're trying to work hard on that. But it's just a shame. It's just one of them things that happens that you just can't unfortunately align with, and you need to try and like I said, suspend the activity and go and do other things.
Yeah. You spoke to me about a new duty of care pathway. What is Emma doing to make sure that that's like all followed correctly?
Well, the first thing is making sure everybody's DBS safeguarded, this kind of stuff, and all the courses have gone back out. Which I mean, we're pretty okay with. We've got safeguarding statements already gone to all the countries in the four nations. It's all over our new website. Safeguarding's there, so there's basic principles about that. You've got to apply and make sure. I think if you look at the duty of care, it's got to start there, right? You've got to look after
Mm.
your youngsters. So
Yeah.
after that, duty of care comes in weight making. It comes in how they're training outside of the gym. It comes in mental health. It comes in concussion care. It comes in many forms, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do at the moment. I think the ultimate goal would be that coaches have a educational pathway or a certification pathway, which is not how to slip a jab and shoot a single, because it's about what things you should have in your gym, which is safeguarding, first aid, CPR, AED, defib, all these kind of things.
Mm.
And then outside of that, it's like, do you understand concussion, the signs of concussions? Do you understand the suspension process? Do you recognise the suspension process and why that's in place? Do you recognise? Oh, sorry, earphones out. Do you recognise? Do you recognise them doing potentially poor weight cuts? And the things to watch out for, the do's and don'ts. Do you
Yeah.
recognise overtraining? It's all this kind of stuff, Katie. It's stuff that I feel is duty of care.
You've mentioned weight cutting there a couple of times, and I just think, especially when we're talking about kids fighting this young, how how do you kind of make sure? What would you do if somebody was, overweight coming into, a few weeks out from a fight, or what kind of safeguarding is there around that for these
Well,
youngsters?
it is something that I want included into safeguarding. So you've got to take this two
Mm,
separate ways, right? We've got to take youth aside for 1 second. Youth should not be doing any weight cutting whatsoever.
mm,
Yeah, because in my experience of running the weight making, this the weights on the day for athletes in the youth divisions, it shows
yep.
people are either over or under. It's bizarre anyway. Because so my mindset is don't have weight categories for kids. Get them close to each other because you're creating pressure around them making weight.
Yeah.
I've got involved with parents' arguments where one's having a go at another, where one's made weight and one's missed weight, and 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 one said I've had my son in a bath, and this is a real life experience. He's been in a salt bath over, and I'm like, obviously I reacted to that, and when I spoke to him, but the others like disappointed because he's had breakfast and that's made him overweight. And like they should have breakfast and they shouldn't be in the bath. And like it's a grappling match. It's a no headshot match. And like ultimately, like you shouldn't be cutting weight. Well, I make a point and go and talk to parents and the kids, find out what they're doing, and they're running themselves into the ground for the week before and under eating. And I've spoke to young female athletes that are clearly creating, I wouldn't say eating disorders, but I would say disordered eating
Yeah.
from all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, why are we creating so much pressure on these kids? It's a grappling match. That extra 1 or 2 kilos here and then doesn't matter within the scheme of things.
Yeah.
But like, if we've got to get it right at that end. Basically, like, take it out. It should never be talked about. But we create the problem from creating a weight division for kids.
Yeah.
Don't, agree it and like let them compete. It's a no headshot bout. It's like, the best skilled kids will overcome
Yeah.
the 1 and 2 kilos. It doesn't matter. So I think that's where I'd start with that. We've got to number one, no weight cutting for kids should never be even spoken about or used. And if there's any kid out there that is being made to do a dehydration protocol or under eating or running himself into the ground, stop it. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not saying people are doing that in any other way that just uneducated about the damage you could be doing. But like kids and disordered eating is a real thing, so we've got to be careful. I
Yeah.
think after that, I'm going to like from the juniors to seniors, adults ultimately, it's the same thing. We kind of they we we glamorize weight making, so it's always there and they're wrapped in towels and it's all over the UFC thing. I mean, I've been there, haven't I? Been video with Paddy and like, but we shouldn't glamorize it. It's not good. But
No.
these athletes are paid where they can work with people that control it and know the dangers and do things correctly. Many people talk about the scientific approach. It's not. It's doing fundamental principles well. I wouldn't say it's scientific, but there is things to do, and we lack education in that. But I've got on. I'm not going to mention any names, but I've got an athlete now that I like a lot, care about. I think you care about him as well. That's doing a weight cut because he's pushed by his He's a young amateur that's pushed by his coach to go down the weight, and it's wrong. It's putting him in danger. I know it's putting him in danger. So you're between the devil and the deep blue sea, Katie. I could say I'm
Mm.
not even going to have anything to do with you, but that create more risk because I'm not even going to advise? Or do I help him do something I know he shouldn't be doing? And
Yeah.
I see that week in, week out. Coaches telling people to go down the weight because that way they'll put more weight on and then they'll be okay. And it's nonsense. There's no performance benefits to that. But do they understand the risk? Even promoters, I've got to say, it's like, I'm not calling anybody out as to lack of education, but like, give somebody 2 weeks notice, accept a fight, but there's no checks about how much weight have you got to cut in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Because this is a short notice fight. A huge amount of weight being lost,
Yeah.
which, so I think the process is like, try and understand, if you're a coach, like, try and understand the process of knowing whether somebody can make weight or not. We could help you with that, which is basically body composition, hydration status, and we can kind of give you some information that'll help you. Don't blindly tell an athlete to go down the weight. He's walking around 25 or 30% above the weight, that he wants to compete at in short notice, because that's just nonsense.
And what is that work that you do on body composition and that
Well,
stuff?
so in the professional environment, you generally do something called a DEXA scan. So, and without going to too much detail, that's kind of gold standard of body composition. So, your fat mass, as they call it, your lean muscle mass, and bone density. And generally, you're always looking at how much fat mass have we got to play with. Simple as that, really.
Right.
So, there is ethics around that though, when you need referral and all kinds of stuff. So, there is other things you can do. There is the cheaper options of in body, but like I would have some concerns about I guess the accuracy. But the
Mm.
athlete factory in my gym, we have a clinical BIA, so it's probably next to DEXA, gold or maybe silver standard. That's pretty accurate. And we generally, everybody I get a chance to, I've got athletes coming down this Sunday. I had 5 on it on Wednesday. Like, we're just giving them body comp, and the clear information is like, you're already very low from a body fat perspective. Where do you think you're going to get this weight from?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people who've had that who go up afterwards and have been quite frightened by the results that they've seen.
I've moved athletes up, and some well-known UFC athletes up a weight on the
Mhm.
back of one visibly can see that they're definitely not the right weight, and can see from the health. When I get into detail of some of the health issues they had at previous weight, it's scary, Katie.
Yeah.
And that's working with trusted people, I would say, that are, quite outspoken or quite well known within the Instagram world, which is fine. And I'm not against them, but I mean, ultimately, there's a duty of care. I think a lot of people understand the theory, but can you make sure that this athlete's just doing everything properly? But it'll always worry me. But I think there's fundamentals, and we want to put that within this duty of care, which is got to understand the basic fundamentals of, where your weight is now, what your weight category is, how much time you've got to do that, where's your body fat, etc. And actually, the beauty of the BIA is it shows hydration status, so we can make some informed decisions on, where we think they can be from a hydration status on the fight week, where you do get into that acute phase of loss. But at the
Mm.
moment, all I'm seeing is, and every week, because there's not a week I haven't got an athlete that I either got a transactional relationship with, or it's just a young athlete asking me for advice. Boxing, MMA, like, it's scary, Katie. Like, it's
Yeah.
really scary. Yeah, and it doesn't seem to change.
No, I think, particularly in the pro world, people are always looking for that size advantage, but the thought of people taking headshots to a dehydrated brain is pretty terrifying. Um,
It, the risk is terrifying. It's ultimately, if you see some of the athletes have moved up a weight, their careers change. They're flying. You've got to remember there's various ways you're going to make this weight. It's either going to be low energy availability, as in very low calorie intake, or it's going to be, dehydration process. If that's not managed well, then you're clearly a weight division where you shouldn't be. You are going to create all kinds of health issues.
mm,
So one of the things you notice and well studied right now, which is dehydration from a neurological aspect of health. You're also getting into all kinds of hormone and physiological damage from under eating. And actually, how the hell do they do a fight camp? Because the biggest thing I always say to people is like, you're now doing a fight camp where your workload's intense, your training, your program is so intense, and yet you're feeling yourself close to what your resting metabolic rate would be. And then so how do you think you're going to perform? And then,
Mm.
without working, don't get me wrong, you get that. And there is some things you can do within that and periodization of carbohydrate and things. But like ultimately, how do you think you're going to perform? You're not got enough food, you're overtraining, and then you're expected, do you think you're going to get that back before fight night and perform? And it doesn't happen. But professionals are paid. They're paid to do it. So they're paid to take some risk. It's their decisions. They've probably got people around them. But I'm going to come back to my focus is the youngsters and the amateurs that, you know, we can get all the care right, even like from a safe MMA perspective and the concussion stuff, but that's all fine at that end. But what kind of care are we putting in them to get there before that happens?
Yeah.
Uh, it's the same switching from weight making to concussion. Bottom line is amateur MMA doesn't have a concussion suspension process anywhere unless somebody can call in and tell me where, because I've done enough time and research now to find out most athletes haven't got a clue whether they've been suspended. And actually, of medics aren't suspending amateur athletes, and they might be. And I'm sorry to those who are, but like I can't find any at the moment. But what I do know
Wow.
is it's not a recognised process.
I wasn't aware of that at all. So at the moment, somebody could get concussed in a show one week and fight 3 weeks later.
I've seen it. We in the background do enough evidence, and again, we're not trying to criticise anybody here, not trying to be personal, or we're trying to say, is there a different way to think about this? Even if some of the higher level people, super experienced at the top of the game, I've spoke to, have said it's a good point.
Yeah.
So um, when I look at some, I mean, we've seen one kid that got, I think he got three, he was TKO'd and then KO'd 3 times in 7 weeks. Right.
Oh
And like,
God.
so, you've got to think, is that lack of education or is that lack of duty of care? I'm not sure. But fighters want to fight, right? So, but somebody's going to have to take control.
Yeah.
Um, but then I think it comes down to the promotion. So if you ask the promoters out there, they've got a register to look at. So before they match an athlete, they can check their concussion suspension status, isn't there? So there's one point.
Yeah.
Um, but even in some concussions that do go on in pro sport, it goes into a register, but it does nothing direct to the athlete or coach as well. So I've spoke to athletes that don't know they've been suspended, and they have because they haven't accessed the website and the database that tells them that. So I think what we're trying to get down to is, and we've been meeting with sport. I've met with Sporting ER, so they are it's kind of pre-emergency medical care. So they work across the world really, and anything you have to do before they go to hospital.
Right.
So that kind of care. So and it's interesting, we put a concussion document now as well as some education around concussion. So the ultimate goal is, and thanks to Callum Williams, who works with me on the performance board for that as well. What we want to do is try and start building a register with the affiliate promotions about and with the medical team, because without the medical team, this will never happen, right? So post-fight medical must include, if necessary, a suspension process. So KO and TKO straightforward, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. The issue I think where we're having is, you see outside of that, is that there's no consideration if it goes to points because,
Right.
well, nobody's been TKO to KO. But the reality is, Katie, as you know, you're going to have a war in
Yeah.
them the 3 rounds or even 5 rounds in amateur championship.
Mhm.
Um, and nobody's kind of putting a process in place. So we've got to think about it, but we need to work with people. So everybody will say, yeah, it's a good point. And then when you do get suspended, the athlete and the coach gets an email and they get a small informative document about what the things you should be thinking about next. Nothing in great detail, but just uses some return to sport kind of practice of things to watch out for the athlete who was concussed. Certainly, though, don't let them come straight back in the gym and go into sparring wars. So, but there's rest time, there's rest periods within that. There's things to watch out for, and if it's a serious concussion, then actually give them people, you can before they can return to MMA to competition, they have to go and
Yeah.
get medically checked and cleared. And that for me is like seems mad, doesn't it, that we don't have it? But like if you're not looking after concussion in youngsters and amateurs who are coming through, then it's not a youth issue because there's no headshots, but certainly in juniors and seniors, it's an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want people involved in the sport from as young an age as possible. But obviously, only if all the checks and controls are in the right place, because you don't want that's it. That's crazy to me, and I hadn't even thought of it before. But yeah, just
It's a well known. They were looking at rugby, and rugby's really in the focus right now, isn't it,
mm,
for concussion and then CTE and all this kind of stuff. But
yeah,
they, one of the things they did is that I think something like 75% of the players said that they told lies, basically that they did feel bad, but they wouldn't admit it because they want to return to the field of play, right?
of
Same
course.
in combat athletes, I get it.
Fighters
Same
want
as
to
coach
fight.
fighters want to fight, the coaches want them to fight. I get it, but like we don't have to do a lot here to improve the space. And all we've got to do is give some. I mean, for me, if you think about a fight camp in the most basic way, a fight camp means you're going to be sparring a lot, you're going to be working really hard, then you go into a fight. There should be a minimum suspension every time you compete because you know leading up to that fight, even if not in the fight you haven't took substantial headshots, you probably took a lot of headshots in the fight camp. So
Yeah,
even if it's minimal suspension, and even that's quite subjective in the time we advise, but like it's kind of a strap line. Like it's okay not to get punched in the head for a while. It's
yeah.
kind of try and get that message across really. So that with weight making is huge for me. I think we've got to try and change the game a little bit and just I keep using them words, but it is duty of care all the time, isn't it? It's like look after the athletes best we can.
100%. Yeah, like I say, I think it's amazing that there's so many kids involved in the sport now, and long may it continue. And kind of the tournament sounds amazing, but as long as everybody's safe, like that's got to be the number one priority.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and it'll take a lot of work. And what you need to do is try and set that kind of snowball going, where people think that's a good idea, and then one gym takes it on board and bit by bit, because MMA community generally is full of some really good people, and it's not that they're doing this in a negative manner. They're not ignoring things. They're probably just not considering them things. And if we can kind of set that snowball off of trying to do all these things, and with Emma trying to support that process through the right register to control that and the right educational platform to, doing stuff. And then generally all that, if it doesn't, I mean, it will change education, but it will change awareness first. So, I mean, everybody was going to be more aware and talk about it, and you're never going to get everybody to change in MMA. You're always going to have that. We know the sport well enough, Katie, don't we? So, but like we could make a big difference. So we really could. And I think if promotions recognise it, and then they won't match without without them being cleared. If the medics do a different job, if the coaches do a different job, if the athletes think about it different,
Yeah.
it just it becomes different, doesn't it? Like it'll improve things just from talking about it.
100%. If you think of where we've come from as well, and all the things we didn't know when MMA first started, and some of the kind of terrible practices that that were around there then, and nobody knew any better. Like where we are today is kind of light years from there. But that's not to say that we shouldn't keep striving for improvement and always be trying to make it better and safer.
Yeah, definitely. Look, the evidence is there. I'm seeing this every week, and I'm talking to people every week. The evidence is there, and the more you dig deep, the clear evidence is there. And I think if we can do it in a very engaging way, not criticizing, not
Hmm.
trying to be, we do it in a very engaging, positive manner, and just ask open questions to people, ask for their ideas and advice and all this kind of stuff. It's like there's a lot of good people out there would want to change things. And listen, I bounced it off some top people, and it's kind of like, yeah, good point. And the more. So if I get involved with people like Sports and ER, the emergency specialists in health, and talk to them, you've got top level people talk about all things from spinal injuries to. They've given me examples of like an athlete whose heart stopped because he was kicked in the heart, and all this kind of stuff. Nobody knew what to do, and spinal care of certain medics that actually have never done spinal care course, how to put somebody on the spinal board. And so you kind of start thinking about things, and that might be extreme, but you've got to be extreme, because if you miss that one area, then are we happy we've got the right duty of care process in place? So we need the medical teams the concussion specialists, but we also need practitioners that are willing to put some time in and talk to people. It needs that. But we only need a few high profile gyms, athletes, coaches to support it. It'll start the ball rolling, I think.
Yeah.
These earphones are causing me some grief, Katie. Um, so I'm hoping, well, we've kind of got everything ready now, to do this. We just got to kind of put it in this document and start working it through. I mean, the courses have some small charges to it, but it's not a lot, and
Yeah.
it's the amount of education we can put through, and then ultimately get the shows making sure that they have a clear access to something to check before they fight, before they match fighters. They can go in and just check a register because then it's safe.
Yeah. I love to hear everything you're doing. I think it's amazing, and I'm so glad that there are people like you and a lot of other people that want to help and make things better for the youngsters coming through. Remind us once again about the Four Nations, where it is,
Yes, good
when it
point.
is.
So it's in Wales at Ebervale, where Cage Warriors Academy is held. It's
Yeah,
14th, 15th, 16th of July. We will be posting the ticket link this week. We're still looking for any sponsors who want to get on board. So, when we're holding the Q&A with Nick Pete from Fight Disciples, and right behind that for the board that can have sponsors on, that's going to be well viewed. Obviously, the cage mat and the corner posts, and then the backdrops at the podium. So anybody like to get involved, every penny goes to supporting athletes. We're not for profit. It's not sitting in the bank account doing nothing. Um, I hope you can come, Katie. You'll always be a special guest.
I'll definitely be there for some of it. I've got a wedding on the 15th, which is bad
No
timing,
excuse.
but
No
I want to
excuse.
be there.
Yeah, and that's generally hotels and in the area we've done a list of, so they'll probably see that. Just come and support it. I mean, I expect a big Welsh contingent because the Welsh love their MMA, and
Mm,
they've got a big team on, but you want to see the size of the Ireland team, and thanks to Ireland, by the way, for the size of the team they're bringing. Scotland getting involved, and we need to help Scotland through to become a federation as well. So because they were there at the Four Nations, we watched Cunley, kind of dominate and win fight of
yeah,
the tournament, didn't we? So ultimately, Four Nations with a lot of pizzazz around it, a pay-per-view on it, and a lot of good guests. Is hopefully we can just get something big going that kind of raises us out of that little black spot we had around IMAF and all the bad news that was coming out. I want to create positive news.
yeah, me
Look
too.
at doing something good for the athletes, and that we're trying to do the right things in competition. So fingers crossed we do that.
It's amazing. Is there anything else that you wanted to say or shout out before you go?
I think the last one really is that because I was super proud of this, and I'm not sure if it fell by the wayside a little bit, but it's the partnership with Sporting Wellness, which I'm super proud of. So we funded through the businesses that I have in Global Performance Nutrition, Vortex, and the Athlete Factory. We funded mental health care for 100 athletes and coaches with a mental health specialist, basically in
Wow.
sport for age 16 and over. So that's direct link, obviously confidential to for anybody with mental health issues, anxiety, depression, relationship issues, addiction problems, all this kind of stuff, getting in trouble maybe outside the gym. So we've created for me, and actually for me, it's one of the most important things we've ever done because we kind of closed the gap for duty care. You've got mental health at the end of it,
Yeah.
but we've got that partnership now. So every Emma member, our own team, the athletes have got now something, you know, brilliant to talk to, an expert field of people when they just need that, a little bit of care around mental health and just getting things off the chest.
Yeah.
So we have announced that we probably need to do more of it, but I'm super proud of that because we've, concussion, weight making, all this kind of stuff, but actually creating something for people to talk to who have mental health problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Sport and Wellness, and I
So
just want
can
people
other
to be
people
aware
get
we
in
have that.
touch with them? Can other athletes get in touch with them that aren't the sponsors?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the moment, Kate, to be fair, I don't, it's for Emma only. Like, it's for all of the Emma team. However, we did it for 100 athletes. We are looking
Mm.
to get that to 500 athletes. But at the same time, as Emma, we need to do more work on members as well, because we don't really charge for the membership. We want to, because we want to add value to be why should I pay a small fee to be an Emma member?
Mm,
Well, having something like this is value, as
yeah.
well as all of the duty care pathway training and all the other things we do. So, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, if anybody's interested in that, other clubs that maybe not members, I mean, come and talk to us, because I don't, as much as about Emma and members, I don't want to keep other people out. I mean, come and talk to us. It might be the conduit of them saying, actually, being an Emma member is quite cool. Can we come and talk to you?
Yeah.
So anybody we can help with mental health for me is a massive positive. So I don't want to eliminate anybody from the process really, but ultimately we did it and we funded it in a way for Emma and all the people involved, not just athletes, but coaches, our own team, that kind of stuff.
I think that's amazing. I think everything you're doing is just really exciting and so positive,
Thank
and
you.
it's just I'm really grateful to you that the athletes have got you, and the other volunteers on the team as well. Is just incredible. I'm really looking forward to this Four Nations. I know quite a few of the athletes that are going to be involved, and just the quality of MMA at just
Oh
such
yeah.
a young age. It's terrifying. I don't know what these guys are going to be like when they're in their prime. It's craziness.
It is good. It's really good. And then if you can help them on the way to be a healthier professional, then you kind of know you're doing your job right. So
You're putting
because
years on their career and
yeah,
and making it a healthier, safer journey.
and that's the ultimate passion, Katie. I think, and yeah, and I guess it's for me as a special shout out to everybody that works within Emma as a volunteer and the board, for all the trusted advisors, to the people that take on tasks. It's like massive respect to them all. It's a huge passion of mine. It's kind of, there's not a day off from it, with all
Yeah,
the other things I do. But like, we need all these people. And while I'm there, Katie, we're looking for volunteers, please, for social media. Anybody's got a bit of graphic design ability. So anybody fancies helping us out with some socials and posts and, like, Canva type experience. We're looking for somebody at the moment just to up our social media game a bit as well.
yeah,
But shout out to everybody, because like, you don't see the work goes on in the background, how many calls we have and all the stuff we do. The administration around Four Nations with a few of us is like, it's insane.
yeah.
It's proper brain ache stuff. Um, so yeah, shout out to all MT, because they do work hard in the background.
And if you can help, then definitely get in touch with Paul. I'm sure no volunteering will be turned down.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Thank you so much for your time, Paul. It's been
Thanks,
amazing
Katie.
chatting to you as usual. You've made me feel even more excited for this tournament. So it's the 14th to the 16th of July
Yeah,
at
yeah,
Ebbw. Tickets going on sale soon. If for some
yeah,
reason you can't make it, it's going to be a pay-per-view. So make sure you
yeah.
support grassroots MMA. Don't wait for these fighters to be in the UFC. Support them while they're fighting down the road from you. This is when they need your help. So please
Yeah,
do
brilliant.
everything you can to support Emma, or the Welsh team, the Irish team, the Scottish team, whoever you'll be supporting. Just try and get involved in some way.
Brilliant. No better way to finish the interview. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks so much, Paul. Take
Have
care.
a great weekend. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.